The information shared on this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and should not be considered accounting, bookkeeping, tax, legal, financial, or investment advice. Every business is unique, and the strategies discussed may not be appropriate for your specific situation. Before making financial, tax, legal, or operational decisions, consult with your CPA, tax professional, attorney, or qualified advisor. Any opinions expressed by guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of the host or Seven Pillars Bookkeeping Solutions. While we strive to provide accurate information, we make no guarantees regarding outcomes or results. By listening to this podcast, you acknowledge that any actions you take based on the information provided are solely your responsibility.
Hey there, you're watching the Problem Solving Profit Strategist podcast with Maggie May. I am so grateful to be here with you guys. The purpose of this podcast is to help business owners to be more confident in their financials. This is where bookkeeping meets business strategies. So this podcast has been a long time coming. I've been doing this for about 4.5 years. And as a problem solver for business owners, I always get people asking like, hey, can you help me with this, help me with that? And now the opportunity has come where I can take those type of bookkeeping, profit strategy problems and bring it to the masses. So with each episode, we're going to bring real business owners. We're going to discuss bookkeeping, strategies, business decisions, profit analysis, all types of stuff related to business financials that business owners just sometimes have questions for, right? And they're not really sure where to kind of get these answers. So without delay, let's get started. So I am so honored to bring on a wonderful guest here. His name is Alan. He's been in the insurance industry for 8 years with his own business for 6 years. So tell us a little bit about how long you've owned your business and what inspired you to start.
Well, I've been independent now since 2020, basically right before COVID began. And ironically, the goal really wasn't to start my business yet when I did it. It's just I'm not really cut out for working for anybody. I'm kind of not the best at coloring in between the lines. So some things that happened with my previous job, and it just made sense for me to go independent. Since I had already been independent with a store that I had before I got into insurance, about 8 or 9 years. So since I was already used to being self-employed, it just happened, and I just started figuring everything out.
Yeah, it made sense. So it sounds like you learned a skill, you've mastered it, and then now you're kind of bringing that to other business owners.
I don't know if I've mastered it or not, but it works though.
Yeah, absolutely.
It definitely works. It's definitely a blessing.
Yeah, that's how a lot of people get into business. A lot of times it's just, hey, I know how to do something. I'm good at it. I've done it for X amount of years. How do I make it my own?
It wasn't even like that for me, man.
No,
it was way more adventurous. It was like I basically jumped out the window. Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Basically just jumped out the window and figured out how to float on the way down.
Okay. All right, that works.
But it's been an adventure.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so then tell us as we kind of move into, the financial part of business, right? A lot of times business owners, the last thing they want to do is their bookkeeping. I hear it all the time. They rather do their marketing.
Yes.
They rather go out and network. And then when it's time for bookkeeping, it's like at the bottom of the drawer. It's shoved under everything else. And December 31st, that's when they want to deal with it. Did that kind of happen to you?
It started off that way like that for me, just because I didn't really know anything about accounting, and I'm not really in a position to not know anything about accounting. But I cheated my way through all of my college accounting classes with no idea that I'd ever needed, and then got out there and it became an issue.
Right.
So bookkeeping is of primarily utmost importance.
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing that I learned in doing that, so majority of people pretty much come to me 10 out of 10 times with a problem. So as a business owner, I had the privilege of working with you through Seven Pillars Bookkeeping Solutions.
Wonderful bookkeeping services, by the way.
Yes. What was the problem that you originally came with?
I was spending a fortune in taxes, Maggie. Like a fortune. I spend so much money in taxes. It just it doesn't make sense. So I was trying to find a way to work on that, manage that expense or whatnot. And
So you're
let me
pretty
tell you,
frustrated at that point, and
very
you're probably
frustrated.
ready to just throw the paper out the window and never deal with it again.
Ready to flee the country.
Yeah, right. Okay, well, I haven't heard that before, but that's a good one.
Yeah, I was gonna flee the country, avoid the IRS and everything, but
Right.
they might frown upon that. I'd miss it.
Yeah, I know. It sounds nice. Maybe go to the Caribbean,
It sounds
forget
cool,
life.
but
Yeah.
yeah, there's got to be some problems with that somewhere. It's probably easier just to pay the taxes.
There you go. So one key thing is I get those problems, but actually yours specifically was you were paying too much taxes with the current CPA. And a lot of times that comes with just making sure the bookkeeping is correct, right? We have to make sure whatever's in is what's going to go out. So during that time, um, did you have your books in order? Did you have QuickBooks? Did you have everything organized, categorized? Kind of. I think kind of.
Kind of, sort of, but you know how it is when it comes to the books and everything. If there's one thing that's off, it causes a chain reaction and throws everything off. So you can either be completely accurate or you kind of completely not accurate. And I was somewhere in the middle, which makes me now believe I was more inaccurate than accurate, if that makes sense.
Yeah, right. You're doing the best you can with what you knew.
Mhm.
Not the most part. All right. How long would you say you had that problem? Were you paying higher? Did you feel like you're paying higher in taxes just for 1 year? Was it happening for a couple years and you're finally like, okay, I need some help? How long did you have that problem?
My perception of the taxes I was paying was altered slightly, because not only was I paying a lot of taxes for my current business, I was also still paying a lot of taxes for my old business. Like I had my old business, I had a retail shoe store, and I think I had it, however it was that I had it set up, I was not isolated from the taxes that were needed to be paid for it. So eventually they came to me where they were going to start drafting my personal account for taxes for the old business. So in my mind, I'm paying tax money for the old business plus tax money current for the new current business, and it's just this is ridiculous.
Yeah, taxes all over the place.
Yeah, this is insane.
Right. So, okay, so as we kind of dissect this problem, one key thing to understand when paying taxes is, okay, it's coming off of the net income. So yes, ultimately, what I recommend in this type of scenario, especially your industry, it's a service industry. So a lot of times, sometimes there's not a lot of write-offs, meaning you don't have big equipment, you don't got like construction vehicles. You might have a vehicle, one vehicle. It's not like you have all types of equipment. You're in a professional services field. So the key thing that I would recommend with your situation is, okay, let's make sure, of course, we're gathering all the income, right? So is there other services? You just do insurance, like auto, home, that kind of stuff as well too, right? You don't sell anything as far as a product.
No.
Like this bottled water or something like that. Okay.
No.
So then, of course, making sure all the income's coming in from services. As far as the expenses, this is where we want to try to capture as much as possible. So especially with service industries, if you have paying rent, for an office, where you're paying rent, electric, water, all that good stuff. Okay, so all of that is an expense. Of course, supplies, software. I think did you have like a software expense for your insurance?
Well,
program,
the
things
agency
like that?
management system that is software that costs monthly. Yeah.
Okay.
Everything is in it.
Everything pretty much is an expense. Gas, oil changes, all that stuff like that. So once we capture all the expenses, now we have the number at the bottom, right? Which is your net income, or it's called profit income. So it's kind of like the leftovers, right? After you spend everything, how much do I have left over? That number must have been high enough to where when you did it with the CPA, you paid a lot of tax. So what's an estimated amount of tax you paid with the previous CPA?
I think for the previous couple of years, my corporate tax is 17,000.
Oh, yes, that's a lot for an insurance company.
That's outrageous.
Okay, yeah. So then that means typically somewhere in the middle, you didn't give them enough of your expenses. You know what I mean? You didn't capture everything, because if you made, X amount as far as income minus the expenses, that means that net income was taxed at the 13%, or whatever percent it is, for them to charge you $17,000, $20,000. Okay,
Because I
So that was a
wasn't
lot.
made aware of like write-offs
Write-offs.
and buying things in the name of the business or whatnot.
Yeah.
Like I am now though.
Yeah, I'm glad through 7 pillars that we were able to help you with that. All right, so then let's talk about that. All right, so all that was finally, that wasn't done at the time. So then also another recommendation is the depreciation side. So you did say your business is an S Corp or LLC?
I'm an S Corp now.
S Corp. Okay, so the advantages of an S Corp, especially in services industry like yourself, is a vehicle write-off. So did you end up getting a vehicle in the business name?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I bought a spaceship and put it in the name of the business.
Oh, that's nice. Get to fly around in the clouds.
It feels like it. It
Hey,
feels
what'd
like
you
it.
get? Yeah, I'm like,
That thing's so smooth.
Right.
Kind of from a BMW dealership near you.
Okay. All right.
but-
Let's check it out.
But it it definitely putting it in the name of the business, being able to write that off. I mean, apply that to the taxes made a huge difference.
Okay. Excellent. And that was one of the strategies that 7 Pillars helped you with, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay. So that was done. Typically, anything else I would recommend is mileage, right? Mileage is a big write-off as well, too. If the vehicle's not in the business name. So, for example, if you have an insurance company and it's still in the LLC, then if you have a vehicle that you use for personal, definitely making sure that you're capturing the mileage, from it, because that's a huge write-off as well, too. And then, of course, any other equipment, things like that for depreciation. So I think in your situation, you got the vehicle in the business name. So that, for purchasing the vehicle, is a big write-off. But because it's in the business name, that means the mileage is 100%. Now versus before. So now your mileage is going to be 100% write-off because it's now in the business name. When it's not in the business name, then you can only use, like, someone, say you use your personal, right? Somebody used their personal vehicle and they say, well, I use it for business 80% and 20% for personal. So only 80% of the mileage that you drove that year can be a write-off because it was used for business.
And meanwhile, the other 20% was personal. So
it's personal, so you can't write that off. But if it's in the business name, like you did, now you got 100% write-off. You know what I'm saying? For every mile that you do. So that's good. All right, excellent. All right, so as we kind of wrap this up, so those are the recommendations for an insurance company. So now that we've gathered all the expenses, making sure you got certain write-offs, tell me now the transformation when you allowed 7 Pillars to help you. Now we connected you with a CPA, right? A new CPA.
Mm-hmm.
We got the vehicle, got everything categorized. What was your tax bill the year after?
It ended up being a lot better. The business went from the business went down to like 4,000. Which I was happy with. That's $15,000 less than what I was paying before. And I was good off of that. I felt like that was a win. My personal was a whole lot better too. Ended up still having to spend money. Had to spend a couple $1,000s, but they sent me a refund back, which I don't really understand. But hey, I'm happy about it. It worked.
Okay, so then you estimated, so you went from paying about 17 to 20 to now paying, what's your estimate? 4,000. Okay, that's excellent. Yeah,
that
that's
works.
about.
So when you spend that much money,
$16,000 less.
Mm-hmm. And then I was always having to pay it throughout the year, like trying to pay it off in installments, this and that or whatnot.
Yeah.
But when it's at 4,000, here, y'all take y'all money. We done with this. And so it allows me to completely change how I look at finances for the rest of the year because I'm not constantly stuck paying back old taxes.
Okay.
Which is a win.
Yeah, that's excellent. Excellent. All right. So now you guys can see, what I'm saying, just to recap, 3 action steps. So if you have an insurance company or services in this company, then the first thing is making sure we're categorizing all the income correctly, making sure all the expenses, are taking, saying for deduction, right? We talked about those ones that aren't always talked about, like rent, electric, water, if you're a home-based business, or especially a brick and mortar. And then making sure that net income or the leftovers is brought down as much as possible. And then the third step is your depreciation, right? Any type of equipment, in this case, a vehicle. I always recommend getting with a CPA and saying, hey, what can I do to reduce my net income, my tax liability? My recommendation is always talk to them by October 1st. You know what I'm saying? Because then they can go ahead and give you a good idea of what to do for the last 3 months of the year so that you're not scrambling at the end of the year, 12/31. Oh my gosh, I'm going to have to pay $20,000. You can make a plan before that.
Yeah, because that is no fun.
Yeah, I can imagine. So that's awesome. That must have been a really great,
Yeah.
So you were smiling a little bit more.
I was happy about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And having a good CPA and then, of course, a separate, bookkeeping or someone that understands strategies, right? So that's where I come in. I'm very good at taking profit strategies and saying, okay, we have an end goal. What's the strategy to get you there? And so that's the key thing. So, all right, cool. Well, a couple of fun things I just wanted to ask you. Tell me, do you have a favorite book that you've read?
A favorite book? I do, but you know what? I'll go ahead and say it. About a couple weeks ago, right? I picked up a book in Barnes and Noble, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F.
Okay.
And it's a real cool book. It basically just talks about relaxing. Like people are so focused on what they don't have and what they need to do and everything, and you burn yourself out. You wear yourself out like that. Meanwhile, if you just relax and just go through life and coast and everything, basically most of the most successful people in the world don't really stress. And it talks about the value of not stressing and just just going through it, just having fun with it.
Okay. All right. Do you know who wrote it?
I can't remember the guy's name now.
All right. Well, at least we know the title.
Yeah. I should remember the guy's name. It's an orange book. I can't remember. I'm halfway through it now.
Right. You're good to go. All right. Excellent. And then tell us, what's the biggest lesson that you've learned as an entrepreneur? Something that can encourage the listeners.
Everybody thinks it's always a good idea to spend house money until you become the house. If you're not employed if you're employed as opposed to being self-employed and things of that nature, you ask people for advice, they'll always tell you, hey, you should get this, hey, you should get that, invest in this, buy this, start up with this, put some money here and there, whatnot. Everybody will always recommend you to spend money on things, but they're not the ones actually spending the money. When you actually run your own show, it is very important to pay attention to the bottom dollar. And just because you can spend money on something does not mean that it is always the best idea to do so.
Okay, I like that. Absolutely. So what's one thing that you would do differently now that you've been in business 6 years? What would you tell yourself now we're in year one?
I've still got a bunch of charges and expenses that I've paid for over the years for things now that I think were frivolous or that I did. My very first business, I paid $300 for an EIN number.
Okay.
And had no idea EINs are free. It's just I fell victim to an online scam.
Yeah.
So I've honestly been getting that $300 back ever since.
Yeah.
I'm still mad at that $300. We talk about 12 years ago.
Yeah, right.
But though, you always have to pay attention to the bottom dollar.
Okay. All right. You know what? We're going to end with that. And so we thank you guys so much for joining us on the Problem Solving Profit Strategist with Maggie May podcast. Please go ahead and subscribe, share this with other fellow business owners. It's going to be really exciting to just bring on various business owners and be able to solve their problems live. We'll talk all things cash flow, profit analysis, net income margins. We'll get into that. We'll talk about cash flow statements. And just definitely hopeful that this will be helpful to you guys. Also, you'll see links, that's going to be in this podcast. Reach out to me if you want to set up a profit audit leak. So then you can also learn more about what we can do to help you guys to gain confidence in your financials and be able to increase your profit. And also you can, if you want to be a host on the show, you'll see the link here in the show and the podcast where you can go ahead and apply. And we'll be glad to have you on. Otherwise, we'll see you guys next time on the Problem Solving Profit Strategist with Maggie May podcast. Talk soon.